Sunday Night Football, Detroit and Houston. A game with a lot of interceptions.
Oh my God.
Those fellas didn't have fun falling back.
Dude, I gotta say, I think it's a little unfair to look at Goff's game as throwing 5 picks, because I just be honest.
Well, that's what Dan Campbell said. He said after the game, he said it wasn't bad decisions.
It wasn't. He got away with He got away with one early in the game on a deep shot where Stingley breaks up the pass. Honestly, if you watch that play, Hunter beat Big Rigatoni Sewell on an inside-out spin. The pressure, forced him in some bad decisions, including Petrie making a real Kyle Hamilton-esque play, which isn't like a traditional pick, but it's a bad decision. So is when Autry drives by one time with his hand out, he's coming back a quarter second later. You got to climb the pocket or get rid of that ball. Again, not a traditional interception. And I felt for him sitting on the bench after he had to heave the ball on the Hail Mary before the half, because I was like, this is the type of thing that now you go into the second half and you have, 3 picks at this point in the first half. And again, I just a really gutsy performance by Goff and the Lions. Can you imagine sitting on the bench and saying, I've thrown 5 picks in this game?
Yeah.
But I kept watching Dan Campbell pace up and down the sideline, and I almost felt like he likes being in these situations because it tests his team.
The
100%.
interview at a halftime. Is there anywhere you think he'd rather be than in front, giving that interview? Like,
No.
we're gonna get a turnover. This is gonna be. All we need is one.
He likes it muddy.
And then first
loves
possession, they get a turnover.
And I don't know where CJ Stroud's. I don't know why CJ Stroud's making that throw, because Davis is outside leverage, and it almost looked like, hey, was Dell supposed to sit down? But I don't think so, because it had tight end sitting down in the same spot. So, I think the bigger story out of this game, number one, the Lions, you can't kill them. They're like roaches, and I mean that as a compliment. But the damn Texans now, it's a little like the Bengals. It's different because the team's built differently and all that stuff. But this is 4 straight games. I don't think they've had a touchdown in the second half. Did I read that today? I'm not positive on that. But
they're 1-9 against the second half spread this season.
No, it's automatic. You fade them in the second half, but you got Joe Mixon coming out of the game saying, we're playing not to lose. And listen, I hear that, and for most of the game, you're sitting there like, this is what happens when CJ Stroud has a clean pocket, because you have a team now that's not a great pass rushing team, right? I mean, they got McNeil and they get Pascal back and all that stuff. But Zadarius Smith, who's on the sideline, by the way, he's coaching up his teammates. Looks like he's immediately going to be a leader on that team. But they don't have a pass rush to speak of. And Stroud is he looks like the old Stroud. Like, that's what we said at the half. We're like, this is who they looked like last year. And in the second half, it's like I wonder at this point if it's not just the play calls. It's not just the fact they go into halftime and just sit around for 20 minutes or something. But it's also the feeling of when you come out and you throw that pick, it's like, here we go again. And when you look at in the second half, their drive starts like they threw that pick off the bat. Then they're backed up on the 1. They had a 2nd and 20 at some point early in the second half. They were backed up on like the 9, 2nd and 30 actually. They were just putting themselves in bad positions. And then obviously, to me, the biggest play of the game is CJ Stroud with Tank Dell butt naked in the end zone. If he hits that throw, it's 30-13. That game's over. Yeah. So as much as we want to make it about the calls, and as much as we want to make it about like it's mental, and maybe it is mental for CJ looking at that throw, but that's a throw we expect CJ Stroud to make. And I'm a huge Stroud fan. And I think he has a chance to be, and I think he is if I had to draft quarterbacks in the NFL, he's going in the top 5 or 6, like drafting quarterbacks for their future. But the way he's playing right now is not good enough. And a lot of times it is the offensive line, but I can't blame every decision he made on the offensive line last night. The offensive line's been abhorrent all year long, but if you hit that throw, it's 30-13. That game's over.
And it's the last 4 weeks that they have not scored a touchdown in the second half.
Yeah. And so you have this game where you're missing some of your best players. You're missing Nico Collins. You're missing Will Anderson. And this is a back against the wall game, and nobody expects you to win it. Except, I guess, me last night. I had a money line and I had him plus 4.5. Like this was your classic back against the wall game. You know, everybody's on Detroit. You watch this team play, there's no reason they should beat Detroit. But the defense flew around. They're fast as fuck. They jumped the stuff in the flat early. You know, they did a great job of replacing in the run game the little guys, Petrie, playing to his strengths. The whole thing. You're right there to beat Detroit and turn your season around. And all of a sudden you're what, 6-4?
Yep.
You know, and the tone is totally different. And the snap's high on the kick. Now, if you're the Texans, you're probably waking up this morning like, hey, that PI on Terry and Arnold, who also had a PI on a shot down the left sideline, got missed. That's what led to that long field goal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they should be on the field probably chewing clock, getting ready to kick a field goal with no time left on the clock at some point. The call didn't go their way. You know, I can't say that's why they lost the game, because why they lost the game was not making that throw, was letting them back in the game in the second half, not taking advantage of more picks from Goff. You know, Goff was out there throwing the ball to the other team. So just a disappointing day for Houston. But you can see when they're at home, and the shame of it is now they might not be a team hosting a lot of games in the playoffs. When they're at home, this defense is something. Like, they're fast and they fly around.
Their get off is sick. They're rolling.
We have a problem, Houston.
Yeah, no, I saw a sign last night. It was like, Houston, you have a problem.
Shout out to the Lions defense. They held Joe Mixon 46 yards on 25 carries. He was on a 4-game 100-yard rushing streak.
Yeah.
And he's only been in 5 of the 6 games he's played so far this season. Before last night, we're over 100 yards.
Good for Aaron Glenn getting these
Dream
guys
the
ready.
dream, baby.
Yeah.
Dream the dream. DJ Reader, those two played really good inside. And Joe Mixon is really fucking good. Like, he's one of those backs where you kind of expect him to have 100 yards rushing every time. And he's like good out of the backfield too. I think he does a lot of the little things right.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what I thought about this game, Chris, and a little bit of kind of an example of what happened a lot on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's like the teams in the NFL that are good are just figuring out ways to fucking win.
Yep.
The Lions figured out a way to win. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Goff threw 5 picks. They still won.
Yep.
You know, then on the AFC side, the Chiefs figured out a way to win in the last second, which is ridiculous how they keep doing this, especially this year, on a blocked field goal.
It is ridiculous.
Wasn't it ridiculous?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking ridiculous.
It was ridiculous, man. Yeah, Cowboy, you weren't happy about that one, were you?
No.
Neither was Nate.
But the Vikings kind of had a down day, but they figured out a way to win. So, like, the Lions are a good team. We all know that, and
Great.
you can't count them out until the game's over, man. Like, they just seem like so galvanized, such a together team, you know. And that's like, those are the kinds of things that, like, those kind of teams go into deep playoff runs.
No question. The poll in here was, did the Texans take a step back? I don't think they took a step back. I thought they just did more of the same. You know, I think in a lot of ways last night, you hit that kick at the end of the game, you're talking about their seasons turned around. Nobody's talking about the lead they blew. But to our point, which we make often, is like when you lose a game sometimes, it's easier to get the point across.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there needs to be a come to Jesus conversation in this building about the offensive play caller and Bobby Slowick, because guys are saying out loud right now that, like, hey, we don't love the calls. You know, they have the most 3rd and 10s plus in the league. The next closest team is 13 times lower than them with 37. They got 50. Team with CJ Stroud and Joe Mixon, who's missed some time, has been in 3rd and long more than any team in the league. That's just not a realistic position to put yourself into. You know who's 37 is Deshaun Watson. They've had 50. So, you know, like, it's not even close how bad they've been. And so, you know, the shame of it is I think the defense is coming along in a lot of areas, and they're pretty disruptive up front. And, like, you're building this complete team down there, and, you know, a guy throws 5 picks against you and you end up losing the game. That to me is like rock bottom.
Shame.
It's not taking a
Shame.
step back
Shame.
because it's what you've continued to do the last 6 weeks of the season, it feels like, where it's like all the way back to the Jacksonville game. You know, they kind of just survived in the second half because they can't get it going offensively. So we need to have a real conversation about, who's calling the plays in Houston. And honestly, I think one of the reasons that we haven't seen something happen, and maybe the reason it's not going to happen, is I don't know who calls plays otherwise on that staff. Like, who's the next guy up? They've got some experience on the staff. One guy that has called plays in the NFL is Bill Lazor, who was in at Virginia for a little bit. I don't know if they feel like he's a guy that can get involved or what, but like, I'm not trying to make something out of nothing here. I think Texans fans probably agree that like we need to have a conversation about the play calling.
Yeah, and typically, whether it's with the coaching staff or with players, those come to Jesus meetings you talk about, they happen during bye weeks, right? And they won't go on the bye till December, till week 14.
Yep.
So there could be, maybe that's something they look into, and for them, it's a manageable stretch. These next few weeks, you're at Dallas Monday night.
Yeah.
Titans at home, and then at Jacksonville.
The thing that worries me about Dallas, though, is like Dallas can rush a passer.
Yeah.
They got Micah back, and wait till we talk about Dallas. There's one nice thing I'm going to say about that team. Overshown's a fucking stud, a stud.
Yeah.
And so there's some guys that can really run, and they're going to be able to disrupt them up front. So like even the games that are supposed to be easy for you are not easy because you can't protect the quarterback. And Mechie, you wasted his big coming out party last night as far as scoring a touchdown and, in some key spots, getting you conversions. And, it's just a tough deal. And what the frick is Titus Howard doing? There was a bro.
That was bizarre. I've never seen anything like that. That was like, what do you even say to a guy like that in meetings if you're the line coach? Like, hey, obviously don't ever do that. Do not do that ever.
Bro, it's like he's short circuited. I honestly,
I'm gonna make a play.
Well, he played high school quarterback.
I can be your hero, baby. Like, you're gonna take that ball and run 15 yards for a first down. Like, what the fuck are you thinking?
Well, honestly, I couldn't believe that he did it. So for about 5 minutes, I was texting Reed and Nolan like, I think Stroud handed him the ball. I got to go back and look at the slow-mo. I looked at it like 15 times. Stroud's right arm did look like it was willingly going away from his body, but what you couldn't see on the other side of the camera was his left arm, and it looked like Howard was with his right arm trying to dislodge the ball, but you couldn't see it for sure. There's just CJ Stroud would never.
Yeah.
I don't.
O-linemen, they're not helping him. They're also actively hurting him by calling him wild.
Well,
That's
it's kind
great.
of like the Saquon play last week, how we talked about like how does he even think of doing this?
Mhm.
It's like the
How does
opposite.
yeah.
Like what offensive lineman in that situation is like, I got you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a tough deal. That's a tough deal. So the Lions have won a bunch of different ways this year. Add to the list, throwing 5 picks and going down a bunch of points. Like, for a team that majors in the run game and play action pass to be able to eat up a lead like that quickly. Jahmyr Gibbs in the second half, off tackle. They just started getting downhill quick with him. And, the Texans didn't help. They did not help themselves.
I actually loved the play calling that Ben Johnson went to after all those picks from Goff. It's like, first of all, he didn't change a whole lot, but I did feel like they did a lot more screen game, quick game, just kind of stuff to like get him comfortable a little bit. Because that is hard. That does weigh on you as a quarterback when you have all those picks. Yep. I feel like they did a really good job of kind of getting him back comfortable, and that was a huge part of like getting back into that game.
And by the way,
their staff is impressive.
The kicker was selling bricks in Houston.
Oh yeah.
Bricks. Like right.
Jake Bates.
Literal bricks.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what do you mean he's selling bricks? You know what I mean? And he snuck those kicks in, man. And then you got a kicker like the guy in San Francisco who we're going to talk about and you do not draft kickers. Do not fucking try to get the best kicker in the world. Just find somebody that was selling bricks a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Like what? It's crazy.